What is that noise, you're asking? Well, I can tell you that is a Lister diesel engine on a narrowboat called Pisces, one of 6 boats owned by the Hillingdon Narrowboats Association in Harefield. I popped down to the canal side recently to find out a bit more about what they do.
Do be careful on any metal bits today.
Yeah.
They have a tendency to get slippy.
So we've come on board Pisces, the oldest boat owned by the association, and Lorraine Grainger, your chairman and our tour guide today. How old is Pisces?
This year, the end of last year actually, she will have done 50 years in the community. She was actually built in 1936. She was a fireboat in the war down on the Thames. So she's had a little bit of history, or a lot of history. This one we use for youth. Lots and lots of bunks. We can actually sleep 12. So you've got 4 down that end, 6. You've got another 4 here. It makes 10. And then you've then got room for 2 more back here, which is our steerer's cabin, which is a traditional back cabin, what they originally would have been like. So a narrowboat would have finished the other side of where that engine is, and it would then be flat and open, and they would be putting all the coal, aggregate, whatever they're going to put in to carry. It would have been all in that front end. This is your bed, which comes down and joins onto that side.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
So that's your double bed. You've got a table here, and you've got your stove in where you could cook. So this would have been their family space in an old traditional boat.
So how many would have lived here?
Well, they say up to 5.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I've heard stories where people have put, you know, this could be a baby cupboard. Not quite sure how that works, but, you know, the idea of sticking a child in a small space.
Yeah.
But I think the other thing is this would have been their sleeping place. And most of it, that would have been it. You wouldn't be inside for anything else. You'd either be out opening locks, Dad would be up steering, the children would be helping somewhere. So you would have inside for eating, sleeping, and then out again. So in some ways they probably had quite a good life.
I love the pictures on the walls, all hand painted.
Yeah, and all the pictures are traditional. Daisies are a mark of the lady that was actually doing these, but you do get roses and castles. It's almost idyllic. I think people used to paint them so that there was a utopia almost. They've got a very sort of basic life.
Delivering coal or corn, I suppose.
Or anything. The more you look into it, the more and more it was done. And it wasn't a one-way traffic, so there would be coal possibly coming down from up in the coalfields up in the Midlands. There'll be all sorts of products being taken from A to B so that they could pick something else up to go to C.
Yeah.
It wasn't a one way. It just would take them a lot longer. To get up to Birmingham now, then you're looking, probably about 4 days.
So how fast can you go in one of these?
Well, our maximum speed on the canal system is 4 miles an hour, and slower past moored boats. Because of the quantity of moored boats around, we're probably getting between 2.5 to 3, and sometimes slower. If I took you from here up to Rickmansworth, it will take us about an hour. If you go by car, you could be up there in 10 minutes, quarter of an hour.
So what's the history of the association? How did it start?
Originally started by the council having youth workers. They had an ex-teacher who was very keen on the canals. They had 2 boats. Gemini 1 and Gemini 2 were the very first boats from Hillingdon. Over a period of time changed Gemini 1 and 2 to Pisces and Star. That was from the council still. They acquired both of the boats. and we operate them. We had one other boat, which was Spirit, at that time looked after by Hillingdon Partnership Trust, and again we operated it for them. That's now changed. We bought the boat off of them about 8-10 years ago. We've also now got Merlin and Teo, who were from another charity, who weren't surviving. We've taken their boats over and we've kept a couple of their people on board with us, and also some of the people that used to use tideway boats when they were down in London.
And who tends to use the narrow boats?
Wide range of people, and that varies from elderly people in care homes, or groups of people who belong to all sorts of clubs come and have a day out on the canal. We have brownies, guides and scouts, some of them just for a day out on the canal, some of them to work with their badge work. They can work together and actually tick off or get badges for scouting. Working a 72-foot narrowboat is actually good for team building. It actually gets people to work as a team. It gets people to understand that if you're living in a very small space, 72 foot by 7, with 12 people on board, you've got to be tidy, you've got to be respectful of other people. So it works for them. We've had Gold DOV, which is a 5-day residential trip. What we do with that one, we take them from here, Harefield, and we take them down through London, going down through Little Venice, down into Limehouse, up the Choppy Thames, and then in through Brentford and back home. And during the 5 days they learn how to steer the boat, they learn how to operate locks, they learn a little bit of the history of how they came about, and also things how it's changing. And they also get to have a couple of qualifications on the back, because they've learnt a little bit about the maintenance and how to operate the boat as a whole. So that's the DOV lot. We have Hillside School use us every year for a 5-day trip, and they go up towards Treng. Recently we've had a group from young offenders. They've come down and helped us physically around, so keeping the car park clean and tidy, and the hedgerow sort of cut back. Over on the lock side they've been down and they've helped paint it, and general little jobs that they can do.
So how many volunteers are there currently?
We have about 50 on our books. On the first Sunday of every month we have a volunteer day, so we come down to the boathouse and we do various jobs that need to be done. On a Tuesday people come down and do likewise, so if there's anything that needs to be done they'll come down and just generally help out. So if anybody's free and has got some time, I'm sure they'd love to see more.
And are there any specialist skills required?
There's always a cross section there, because sometimes it is a body, and people that are willing to learn and try and do something different. Sometimes it would be really nice if we've got the odd skills like the plumbings and the electrics. They are slightly different on a boat, but the basics are there. So some general skills are good too.
To get in touch, it's the www.hna.org.uk website.
Yes, send us an email and then we can respond. Also on the website you will find telephone numbers as well to actually contact us that way.
Thanks for showing us around, Lorraine, and let's hear that Lister engine one more time.